We still have people coming in. Again, there we go. Can everybody see that?
Yep.
Yes. Once again, welcome.
Yes.
Yes.
And we're going to start our annual training. And I apologize for having that wrong slide up there. We're going to start. Who starts with it? Brandy, are you first? I can't see your picture, Brandy. I'm sorry. Once I start the slide and it's doing an automatic, it's moving again. Oh my gosh. This slide.
You need to back it up to a cover slide. There we go, right there.
I hope it doesn't move without me. Brandy, please get started whenever you're ready.
Okay. Good evening again. Thanks for joining us tonight. My name is Brandy Davila, and I'm just going to go over the housekeeping tips that we need for your renewals. We're going to talk about enrollment forms, provider data sheets, and updating the provider income statements if you are claiming your own children or your own grandchildren. Next slide. Okay, you're going to be mailed out a packet, and in this packet is going to be the enrollment renewal worksheets, a provider data sheet, a provider income statement if you're claiming your own children, a holiday list, and I'm going to send those all out August 18th along with a return envelope.
Hold on, guys. I got to turn something off. It's doing that automatic click again. So let me turn that off. Where were we? We're on this one
with that one.
Okay.
Okay, in your renewal packet that I'm going to mail out on the 18th of August, it's going to have your renewal worksheet, a provider data sheet, a provider income statement if you're claiming your own children or grandchildren. And if you happen to need copies of any of this documentation, please let me know and I will mail those back out to you after they come back in. Now, any of the changes that you make on these forms that we're going to return back to me, everything's going to be effective October 1st. Next slide. Okay, we do have some new providers that have joined us in the past year, so they haven't actually had a chance to see. This is what we call the enrollment renewal report, or I call it a worksheet. This is going to be a list of all the children that are currently enrolled on your roster. So if you happen, when I mail this out in August, and if you do not see one of the children that are supposed to be on this sheet, we're going to need a separate form. And in this way, they're going to be good for the whole fiscal year. So our fiscal year runs from October 1st of 25 to September of 26. Now on this form, please double check the days, the meals, and the times on here. And if there's any changes that need to happen, we can make it directly on this form. And then I can go back into KidCare and make those changes for you, whatever that happens to be. If a parent's address happens to change, a phone number, email address, all that stuff can be put on here. And then I can go into KidCare and update that information. We do need your signature on each page. That's on the corner towards the right. Please sign each page for me. When the parents sign, even though they may have siblings, we need a signature for each child enrolled. Make sure that they're signing the date that you give them a form. So you do not have to put October 1st as a date. If they happen to sign it on September 2nd, that's perfectly fine. Now, if a kid prints on this sheet that's no longer in attendance, just leave it blank and I'll take care of it. I'll make sure that that child's withdrawn, because if it's showing up on this form, we think he's still active. Next slide, please. Okay. So this would, I did get some questions this year. This is just an extra piece if you actually care for infants. So this is going to print out underneath the enrollment if a child happens to be an infant. But if the child is already enrolled, we should have an infant feeding form on file. This is just parent's choice who's providing the baby formula. So we do not need another infant feeding form. If you are enrolling a new infant, that would be the only time that we would need an updated form. Next slide. Okay, I did have a couple of this happen last year. So if by chance you do not see a child on this worksheet that should be there, do not cross the child out and write in the new child that's missing. That's really not acceptable to our state auditors. So we definitely would need a new form. So if you do not see, just do not cross it out. If you have problems with printing out a form, reach out to your monitors or myself, call, email me, and I'll make sure that you get what you need. So we have all the documentation for October 1st. Next slide. Okay, this is if you needed to, if the child did not print on your renewal worksheet. These are step-by-step on how to print a form. You could do like a screenshot of this if you have forgotten, because some of you ladies have the same 6 for the whole year, and so you don't get a chance to print out a form. There again, if you happen to need me, if you need any assistance, I'd be more than happy to print out those forms for you. Next slide. Okay, if you are printing out a form, this is an example of this is an example of a renewal form, regular form that comes out from KidCare. I just want to make sure and double check where on this form where it says normal schedule, this is where if all the boxes aren't checked, KidCare will kick out those meals. So participating days, Monday through, if you're open Monday through Saturday, or you're open 24 hours a day, whatever meals, all the meals that you're served, please go ahead and check those off. Make sure those are right. The times, we recommend the earliest that you're open and the latest that you're closed. And the reason we recommend that is sometimes you have those schoolers that come in and out, for spring break or holidays. And if you have that schooler only for breakfast or for a PM snack, and they come for spring break, that lunch could get kicked out. And then we have to get another form. And, sometimes those parents just don't have time to sign extra forms. So before you send those back to me, please double check those. Next slide. Okay, after I send this documentation out, make sure the parents have signed the enrollment forms, whether it's on the renewal worksheet or that extra enrollment form that's printed out from KidCare. We need everything back in our office by September 15th. Please, please, please get those back to me as soon as you can, so I can start working on them. And if you need copies, please reach out to me, let me know, and I'll be more than happy to get those out to you. Like I said before, everything that you're going to send back to me by the 15th goes into effect for August 1st. Next slide. Provider income statements. Okay, this is for providers that claim their own children. This is going to be in your renewal packet. If you are not claiming your kids before, you please reach out to me, because I won't know if you have decided to claim your own children. This is for children, your own children, your grandchildren. They just have to be living in your home full time. Next slide. Next slide. There you go. Okay, this is the example. This is the provider income statement. When it's sent out, I'm gonna have your name and the children that are currently being claimed with us. I'm gonna have that filled out for you. So basically, there's 5 steps to this form. Step 1, we need to have all the children listed in your household. Make sure it includes their birth dates. If they attend the home, yes or no. If they're foster, yes or no. Immigrant, yes or no. Runaway, yes or no. It does not matter if they're in your daycare or not. If you have children that are in middle school or high school, go ahead and list them on this form. Then we would proceed to step 2. Step 2 is if you happen to have a food stamp number. This number is a 10-digit number that usually starts with a 1 or a 0. If you have a food stamp number, you can automatically go down to step 5, and you can skip step 2, you can skip step 3 and step 4. If you do not have a food stamp number, you must continue to step 3. And in step 3, this is the income for the children. So if you receive child support, SSI, any kind of income, this is where this would be listed. Then you would continue to step 4. This is for all the adults in the household. So we need all the adults listed, the income, the income that is for each adult, and the frequency. Once that's completed, then one of the most important things on this form, if you do not have a food stamp number, is to fill out that Social Security number, the last 4 digits. It has to be filled out. If it's blank, we cannot determine the eligibility of the child, and you would no longer be able to claim that child. So that is very, very important if you are putting income in this form instead of a food stamp number. Last but not least, step 5, make sure that you put your address and phone number and a signature. There again, signature date, whatever date that you're filling out this form, that's the date you need to sign it. So you do not need to put October 1st. And that would complete that form. Next slide. Okay, last but not least, I'm going to talk about the provider information sheet and holiday list. These are sent out every year, and it's just for our monitors to plan their schedules when they're going to see you. Next slide. Okay, this is the provider data sheets that we are required to send out every year. Any changes you make to this form will go, like I said, into effect October 1st. If you have helpers or substitutes, please list those. And that helps me out when you happen not to be available and are out sick and I'm talking to somebody else. So it's just more, it helps me to know who I'm speaking with. Home phone number, cell phone number, email, just kind of circle which one is the best way to reach you and the quickest way to reach you. Because a lot of times when we're processing, we're under a crunch. And so if I'm calling a home phone number that you don't use, it could delay our process. So whatever is the best way to contact you. The mail times are already going to be listed on the data sheet. These are what we have approved and what you and your monitors have set up. Now, if you happen to need to change any of this information, cross that out, write in what you want, initial it, and then I will let the monitor know that you need to make some changes, and the monitor, between you and the monitor, you guys can discuss if you really want, if that's the changes you'd like to make. But I would forward that to them, and then once that's approved, those changes would be made October 1st. Next slide. Okay, holiday list. This is just the dates that we typically, these are the dates that most daycares are closed, or it doesn't necessarily mean you have to be closed in those days. If you are going to be closed, please go ahead and circle those for me, and I will put those in your kid care calendar before we start processing October 1st. If anytime during the year you're like, oh, I've decided to be open on the 4th of July because some parents need me, all you need to do is call your monitor, call me, email us so we can take that out, because what happens is if it happens to be on your calendar that you're closed, kid care will bump out those meals. So we want to make sure that you guys get reimbursed your maximum reimbursement. So just be wary of this holiday list. Now, if you see dates on here that you're going to be closed other times, you're going on vacation in the summer, write those dates down to the best of your knowledge on the bottom. And I mean, things change. So if your summer vacation happens to get canceled, but you told me you were going to be closed the first week in August, no problem. I'll delete it. But just let us know, because it does help the monitors out when they're making their schedule to come see you guys. Okay, next slide. Okay, that concludes my portion of the annual training. I look forward to working with all of you guys, and it's been a pleasure. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Oh, you want to speak, Edna? Go ahead.
I was going to introduce you.
Okay.
Kima's coming up to talk to you about serious deficiencies. And as they're going through this information, if you have questions, providers, please put them in the chat. And we may get an opportunity to look at those questions tonight, but if not, we'll send you those answers via email, okay? If you have any questions, put them in the chat. Go ahead, Akima.
All righty. My name is Akima Barr, and I'm a CCFP specialist. So, common reasons for serious deficiencies. These are some of the common reasons. Failure to keep adequate records by not recording your meals menus on a daily basis. Providers submit a false claim for reimbursement by claiming children who are not present or children who have left the program. Provider fails to allow the CCFP monitor in your home to conduct a review. And also, providers fails to follow the required CCFP meal pattern requirements. Next slide. Other reasons are providers' actions threaten the health or safety of a children. Providers fail to participate in mandatory annual meetings. Annual trainings, my fault. Providers fail to comply with the sponsor provider agreement that has been signed. Also, providers make a false statement to the sponsor and falsifies or destroys records. Things to know about serious deficiencies. Self-termination will not stop the serious deficiency process. Not picking up your certified mail will not stop the serious deficiency process as well. Calling the sponsor and offering a verbal apology will not stop the serious deficiency process. Do continue to file claims with sponsor until hearing officer makes final decision. And the process may take up to 3 months. The best defense against a serious deficiency is a successful CAP response. And here are some poor CAP response. Some may say, I am sorry, it won't happen again. Others might say, what had happened was, and few might say, my mom and them. An apology, all the excuses for why it occurred. I won't do it next time. Don't restate the non-compliance. If it is not past the deadline to submit your CAP, reach out to your sponsor for help. How to write a successful CAP response. The CAP response must include what the serious deficiency is and the procedure that will implement to address the serious deficiency. Also, who will address the serious deficiency? You can list the person responsible for this task. When will the procedure for addressing the serious deficiency be implemented? Please provide timelines for implementing the procedure, like will the procedure be done daily, weekly, monthly, or even annually, and when will it start or begin? Also, where will the CAP documentation be retained? Like, where would it be held at? After the sponsor receives the CAP, what will happen next? Your response will be reviewed issue by issue to ensure that you have provided a clear statement of what, who, when, where, and how the issue of noncompliance will be corrected. If the CAP is denied, you will be notified. If time remains before the CAP due date, you may resubmit the CAP. If no time remains, you will receive a proposed to terminate and disqualify letter. Then what happens? If the CAP is approved, the sponsor will conduct a follow-up review to verify that the CAP has been implemented. Also, if the follow-up review reveals that the correction was not fully and permanently corrected, then a proposed to terminate and disqualify letter will be issued, which could result in the provider being terminated and disqualified from the child care food program. Prior to termination, the provider may request an appeal hearing. Your right to an appeal. You have 15 days from the receipt of the notice of proposed to terminate letter to submit your request for an administrative review. If you submit your request on time, you will receive a letter with date and time of the hearing. The hearing officer has 3 days after the hearing to render the decision. If you do not submit a request for an administrative review, the sponsor will move forward with terminating the provider agreement with the child care food program. The provider's name will be placed on the national disqualified list. Thank you for your time and your attention. If you have any questions, please put it in the chat. We'll try to get to you as soon as possible.
So this section is going to talk about whether your home daycare is in compliance with the child care food program rules. Next slide. So where do we find the rules for the child care food program? Well, they're actually listed in your sponsor provider agreement, which I know you all have a copy of someplace. Next slide, Edna. Okay, so here we're going to talk about what is the provider supposed to do to meet their end of the agreement. Next slide. Well, first of all, you're supposed to feed the children. to prepare and serve age-specific meals that meet program requirements from the meal pattern, claiming only the meal types, breakfast, lunch, snack, etc., that you have been approved to serve. Make sure that you're not claiming reimbursement for any more than 2 meals and 1 snack per child, or 2 snacks and 1 meal per child. Provide all eligible enrolled children the same meal at no cost to the parent or guardian. Meal counts now are based on the children in attendance and actually sitting, eating. Next. Meal counts must be recorded no later than the end of the day. The meal counts can be entered directly into the KidCare software or can be kept on hard copies like the weekly attendance worksheet that you see below. These are printed out of KidCare. Please remember that sign-in and out sheets do not take the place of meal counts. Meal counts should be consolidated by the end of the day, again, by either entering them into the KidCare software or using the meal count summary sheet to total up how many breakfast, lunches, and snacks or dinners you served that day. When a review is conducted and attendance and meal counts are not available either in the computer or on hard copies, all the days for which there are no meal counts will be disallowed. So it's really important you keep up with those. You must notify your monitor of any changes to your meal times. If you're not sure that we have the correct times, check with us, reach out to Brandy or your monitor. Because if you serve before your scheduled mealtime, the meal will be disallowed. And if you're serving after the end of your mealtime, those also would be disallowed. So you need to be serving right within the appropriate mealtime. Notify your monitor if you plan to close your business or you're relocating. Make sure that you submit your claim paperwork on time, and the due date is the 5th of the month. The claim should be submitted in KidCare no later than the 5th of the month for the previous month's claim. And other claim documentation and supporting documents also are due on the 5th of the month. Supporting documents include applications for new children that were enrolled during the month. Also, to let us know if you have children that you want to have withdrawn or reactivated. And other supporting documents would be infant feeding forms, infant transitioning to solids forms, medical statements, and parent requests for milk or food substitutions. If you should get a corrective action plan, you need to be very sure that you respond to it by the due date. At the end of the claim processing period, you should take a look at your claim summary and errors report. This report will show your reimbursement amount and whether you had any meals were disallowed. It provides an explanation of why meals were disallowed so that you don't make the same mistake the next month. To access this report, you would go to Reports on the left toolbar in KidCare, select Claim Statements, and then choose the Claim Summary and Errors report for the month you want to see. It's also important that you maintain child care food program records. Last year, they changed the number of years that we had to keep records from 3 to the 5 previous years. So you have to keep the current fiscal year plus 5 previous years. And this is all the records that you have regarding the food program, things like your menus, your meal count records, attendance records, child enrollment forms, infant feeding forms, medical statements, parents' requests for milk or food substitution. In these forms, not only do you have to keep them, but they must be made available to either the sponsor, sometimes the Department of Health, USDA, or even the Florida Department of Law Enforcement could ask to see them. You must attend training as required by the sponsor, and a lot of you here tonight are doing just that, so we're happy. You also must allow anybody who has properly identified themselves as a representative of an agency to come in and look at your records. And this could be sponsor staff, staff from the Department of Health, USDA, the Early Learning Coalition, or the Florida Department of Law Enforcement. Make sure these representatives show you proper identification from the agency they represent. Failing to allow them access would be a violation of the sponsor-provider agreement. And please remember that all representatives should be treated in a professional manner at all times. We also want you to conduct the child care food program without discrimination, which means equal access for all. All children receive the same meal without cost to the parent or guardian unless there is an allergy or other medical statement. Civil rights information needs to be displayed. That's your Building for the Future flyer and your new WIC flyer. You should have got your new WIC flyer in the mail and should be posted where parents can see these in their own language. Thank you for your time and attention. Those are the main rules for the Child Care Food Program.
Thank you, Janet. Next up is Linda.
Hi, I'm Linda. I'm going to present how to have a successful meal or snack review. So the first thing is the accurate meal time. You haven't heard this for the first time, this presentation, but serving meals earlier than your approved meal time will result in a disallowance, and meals served after your approved meal time, they cannot be counted either. You can request a change to your meal times by contacting your CCFP specialist. And please always let us know if you're going to be closed. The other important thing is that your menus are accurate. The current menu must be posted in the kitchen by the 1st of the month. If you're making a substitution, cross out the component on the menu and write what is being served, and do this before the meal starts. There's an example on the bottom there. Just put a line through the item, and what you're substituting for it needs to be written in. You need to be careful with the substitutions, because if you're substituting a whole grain, be sure you replace it with another whole grain so that you're meeting that whole grain requirement for the day. Before submitting your claim, be sure the substitution is recorded in KidCare. The meal serving process. So before children eat, the tables must be cleaned and sanitized before the meal service. Children and staff must wash their hands. And the children must be seated, and the food needs to be put in front of them. They can choose not to eat it, but the meal or snack must be served. And if any of you are serving family style, just remember that you have to have enough food on the platters or in the bowls for each child to have at least the required amount of each component. Milk is another big issue that we always come across. So the correct serving size of age-appropriate milk, which is whole milk for 1-year-olds and 1% or skim for everybody else. It all must be served at breakfast, lunch, and dinner if you're serving dinner. Milk should be served in a cup so you know you have the correct amount. And then if the child is having cereal, they can pour that over the cereal. Check the expiration dates on the milk when you purchase it and daily thereafter. And discard expired milk immediately, and please don't serve it to the children. So a little more on milk. If a parent wants their child to drink accreditable milk other than cow's milk, they must complete a parent request for milk substitution form. And if a child is to drink a non-creditable milk, such as almond or oat or rice milk, or if the child is not to drink any milk at all and maybe have water, we need a medical statement for this. So a little on food safety that we look for. We will check your refrigeration units, and they are to be maintained at 41 degrees Fahrenheit or below, and freezers are maintained at 0 degrees Fahrenheit or below. Each fridge and freezer must have a thermometer in it. We cannot take the digital readings that some of these refrigerators have. We need to actually see the physical thermometer in the fridge. The best practice would be to keep an extra thermometer on site because they do tend to get smushed around in the refrigerators and they do break. So if you have an extra one, we can put that right in there when we're there. Also, it's important to maintain foods at the proper temperatures. So make sure that when you're serving, that your hot foods remain hot and your cold foods remain cold. And then when prepared or leftover foods must be stored in clean, covered containers that are clearly labeled and marked with the date of the preparation. Also, always be sure that cleaning supplies are stored separately from food. They cannot share counter, cupboard, or pantry space. Also, please make sure no rodent or insect infestations. Then we will look for your meal counts. So meal counts should be recorded within 1 hour after the meal is served, or at least by the end of the day. They can be entered directly into KidCare or recorded on hard copies, which can accurately be entered later. Hard copies mean that you need to have both these forms. You need to have the weekly attendance worksheet, which will have the children's names listed, and then you mark off each day whether they're having breakfast, lunch, snack, whatever it is. And then the monthly meal count summary is where you will add up all those breakfasts for the particular day, and you can put it over on that. But just having the meal summary without the worksheet where you got that number from isn't anything. That's just a number. So we need to see who it pertains to. Meal counts need to be consolidated by the end of the day. They need to be on that summary sheet or in KidCare by the end of the day. The meal counts are based on the number of children present and served during the meal or snack time. Meal counts cannot be based on the number of children enrolled or even the daily attendance, because children may arrive late or leave before a meal or snack is served. Meal counts must be accurate to the children who are actually there, not just the number matching a head count, which is why we need both those forms, which is what we consider the hard copy. If a CCFP specialist comes to do a review and there are no meal counts recorded in the computer or on hard copies, all the meals for the missing days will be disallowed. Meal counts should be consolidated, here it is again, by the end of the day. During a meal visit is not the time to start totaling your meals for the previous 5 days. Remember that your monitor cannot consolidate the meals for you. Then we also do what's known as the 5-day test. So during a meal or a snack review, the meal counts for that meal or the snack are averaged for the 5 previous days, and an allowance is made for normal absenteeism. The result of this calculation determines what your number for the day of the review should be for that meal. You need to be equal to or higher than that number to pass the 5-day test. So failing the 5-day test. Failing the 5-day test requires an explanation, and if the explanation is not adequate, a corrective action plan will need to be completed. Follow-up visits will be required until the 5-day test is passed. Inflating meal counts is one common reason why the 5-day test is not passed. So the other thing that we always check for is we'll ask you for the food program applications. Paper copies of each child's enrollment form or the renewal worksheet must be on site and available for the monitor to review. Please be sure to make copies of all forms before you turn in the originals to our office. So finishing up the review. At the end of the site review, you and your monitor will agree how many children were present for the meal or snack that was observed. When you sign the review, you are agreeing to that number. So changing that number or any number used as part of the 5-day test after the monitor leaves will result in a disallowance and a corrective action plan. So another tip for a successful review is that before you submit your claim for a month in which you had a review, make sure the numbers that you are submitting match the numbers on the review document that your monitor sent to you. Thank you very much for your time and your attention to these requirements will assure that you have a successful review.
Thank you, Linda. Next up is Leticia, and she's going to talk about crediting combination foods.
Okay, good afternoon again. I'm Leticia Vargas. I'm going to present the crediting combination foods. Okay, what are combination foods? Combination foods are foods that provide more than one component of a meal. Examples of combination foods are pizza, chicken nuggets, macaroni and cheese, and fish sticks. Some combination foods are purchased from a wholesaler, wholesale club, or grocery store, while others are made on site. Next. Required documentation for combination foods. Documentation is required to show that the combination food has sufficient quantities of meat, meat alternate, grains, vegetables, and or fruit to meet the meal pattern. Otherwise, the food cannot be counted towards a reimbursable meal. There are 3 forms of acceptable documentation. The first one is the Child Nutrition or CN label, Product Formulation Statement or the PFS, and the standardized recipe. CN labels. The CN label on a product states the serving size of a product and the meal contribution per serving. If you're using a commercially processed combination food item, you must keep a copy of the CN label on site. You can see here an example of a CN label. This one is for fish nuggets. So 5 bread fish nuggets provide 2 ounces meat, meat alternate and 1 serving of bread alternate. So it looks like this. Next. The product formulation statements or the PFS. The product formulation statement also states the serving size of a product and the meal contribution per serving. The product formulation statement can be obtained by calling the 1-800 number on the packaging of the food item. Can be faxed, email, or mailed to you, will be different of each manufacturer. Must contain a statement about the amount of meat or meat alternate, grain bread, and or vegetable or fruit component per serving. And the product formulation statement must be signed by an official of the manufacturer, not a salesperson. Next. And here you can see a sample of a product formulation statement. So you can see here in the product, the name of the product, and at the bottom, the signature of the, in this case, is a quality assurance manager. Next. CN label products are harder to find. Finding products with the CN label in wholesale club store is very difficult at this time. As CN labeled items get harder to find, it will be necessary to obtain a product formulation statement for combination processed food items on your menu. We have gathered product information statements from a variety of companies and put them together in a handout showing serving size for each age group. The handout has been mailed to you in the annual meeting packet. So probably you received the packet, so make sure to open it so you will find that handout inside. To use, I'm sorry. It's fine. For some items with a product formulation statement, the required serving size is excessive. And here we can see an example. Here we can see home-style meatballs. As you can see, for age 1 to 2, you have to provide 12 meatballs. For 3 to 5 years old, you have to provide 18 meatballs, and 6 to 12, 24 meatballs. So it's a lot of food for those kids. Next. So what we can do? To serve a more reasonable amount of food, a meat alternate can be used to supplement the main meat offering. For example, 1 stick of string cheese is 1 ounce of meat alternate. So you could serve 1 to 2 years old 6 meatballs and half a stick of string cheese. For 3 to 5 years old, you can serve the 6 meatballs and 1 stick of string cheese. And for the 6 to 12, you can serve 12 meatballs and 1 stick of string cheese. Next, what else we can do? So you can just avoid using processed food on your menu altogether. So gonna be easier for you. And the third one is a standardized recipe, and they're required for foods prepared on site. So standardized recipes are recipes that have been carefully adapted and tested to ensure they will produce a consistent product every time they're used. A standardized recipe includes the following: recipe title, ingredients, weight and volume, preparation instructions, cooking temperature, serving size, and recipe yield. Next. And here you can see an example of a standardized recipe. This is for macaroni and cheese. This is a common food item that most of you serve in your menu. So here is the standardized recipe. Is you made it homemade, so you will need to have this, a complete one. And thank you for your time and your attention.
Sorry, had to unmute myself. We're moving right along. Next up is Bruni Matos.
Okay, Miss Janet, Miss Edna, I don't see my slide well.
You don't see it. Do you see that one?
Yeah, but
You don't see the slide at all?
no, it's too small. Okay.
Can you adjust it on your
Yeah,
computer?
I got it now.
Okay.
But it doesn't show. Let's see how you do it.
The next one, you want me to go to the next slide?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Hi, everybody. We are going to do the topic about feeding babies. The infants must be enrolled in the Child Care Food Program. Providers participating in the Child Care Food Program must offer meals to all children, including infants. Even if you do not plan to claim infants, they must be enrolled in the Child Care Food Program. Each infant must have an application form and an infant feeding form on file in our office. Next. When you enroll an infant at your daycare, you have to ask the parents to complete an infant feeding form. This signed infant form be on file for each infant enrolled, and a copy of this form must be sent to your monitor. Please remember that your daycare must choose a meal-based and a soil-based formula to be offered to parents. Parents are not required to bring formula or food for their baby. Next. This is the infant form that you have to use when you enroll an infant. At the top, write the name of your daycare and 2 types of formula that your daycare will provide. If the parents don't accept the formulas that you offer, then they can write in what they would prefer to bring, either breast milk or a formula that they want their baby to drink. This form states very clearly that parents are not required to bring formula or food to the daycare. This form has to be signed and dated by the parents. Next. It is important to support breastfeeding mothers and infants. It is very important to support and encourage those moms that breastfeed their baby. If you have a mom breastfeeding her child at your daycare, you can still claim those meals for reimbursement. There are many health advantages for those babies that are breastfeeding. Next. The infant meal pattern chart is divided only into 2 age groups, birth to 5 months and 6 to 11 months. For age birth through 5 months, the baby only needs to drink breast milk or an iron fortified formula. For ages 6 to 11 months, the infant can be served solid food such as infant cereal, fruit, vegetables, meat, or meat alternate. Next. Birth through 5 months. Baby at this age can only suck and swallow. For the infant from birth to 5 months, all needs are met through breast milk and or iron fortified formula. They don't need nothing else. Now I'm going to talk about when the infant is ready to introduce to solid food. How do you know if the baby is developmentally ready for solid food? It is recommended to introduce solid food to infants at the age of 6 months with the consent of the parents and the advice of the infant's doctor. There are some signs to show when an infant is ready to solid food. First, is able to sit with good head control. The baby should be able to use his tongue to move food from his mouth to the spoon, and the baby is able to use his whole hand to grab object. Next. Before you introduce any solid food to an infant, you have to consult first with the parents. The parents must sign the infant's solid feeding form before the daycare can offer solid food. In this way, the daycare knows what food the parents has already introduced to the baby. In the next slide, you can see this is an infant solid food feeding sample that is required to complete if you enroll a baby at the age of 6 months or older. Remember that the parents try first to introduce solid food to their babies at home. When this form is completed, you have to keep it in the infant file and send a copy to your monitor. Next. Babies 6 through 11 months. The babies from 6 to 11 months still need to drink breast milk and or iron fortified formula at each meal and snack. Remember to serve a vegetable or fruit or combination of both at each meal and snack as well. Next. What else can they have? These are other components that you can serve to infants aged 6 through 11 months for breakfast, lunch, or dinner. Infant cereal, meat, mashed beans, yogurt, or eggs. For a snack, offer a grain or bread component and or vegetable with formula. A complete snack can be like saltine crackers, fruit or vegetable, and formula or breast milk. Next. How much does the baby have to eat? It is important to know that when you serve a meal, the baby doesn't have to eat the entire meal or snack for the meal to be reimbursable. The infants eat on demand. They don't have to follow a regular schedule. Next. There is new rules for combination foods for infants. If you serve baby food dinners that have meat and or a pasta or rice, they only can count for a meat. The rice or pasta is just considered to be an extra. If you use a baby food combination with meat and vegetable, then this will count as a meat and a vegetable. Next. Recommendation for serving combination food to infants. I want to add to prevent allergy reaction. I want to add another recommendation beside the one to let parents try first at home to introduce any solid or combination item before you serve the combination food to the baby. Please keep that in mind. Always let the parent try first at home. The Credible Baby Puff for snack. I want to say that the only Credible Baby Puff that you can serve for snacks are those that are in label, that in the label read cereal snack, whole grain, or enriched, and has 6 grams of sugar or less. What food cannot be served to infants? This food cannot be served to infants. Cow's milk, juice, infant cereals in a jar, baby food desserts, no nuts, seeds, butters, baby puff with rice flour as the first ingredient. Those cannot be served. When is a medical statement needed? This is very important. The medical statement is required when the infant is drinking a formula that is listed in the special formula list. This list, you can get it in our 4C website, or you can ask your monitor to send it to you. If for some reason a baby reached 1 year old and still is required to stay on formula, we need a medical statement. Please keep the medical statement on file and send a copy to your monitor. These are the infant formulas that require a medical statement. So, if a baby at your daycare is drinking one of these formulas, you have to ask parents to get a medical statement in order to get reimbursement for the infant. This is the standard infant menu. It has to be posted in the infant room. In the top, you have to write the name of your facility, then the list of the milk based on soil-based formula that your daycare is going to offer to parents. If you are claiming infants that are over 6 months, we must see formula or baby food when do a review. So, so we have to see in your cabinet that you have baby food. There are some safety guidelines for infant formulas and breast milk. These are some safety guidelines for your staff to follow up to prevent infants from getting sick. The most important is to label bottles with baby's name and the day and the time of preparation. You have to wash, rinse, and sanitize bottles, cups, nipples, and any other equipment. Do not put cereal or other food in the bottle. Every time you feed the baby, throw out unused breast milk or formula. Next. Clean and sanitize high chairs, trays, kitchen surface, and counter. Wash and rinse jars or pouches of baby food before opening. Do not heat jars in the microwave. Serve baby food from a dish, not the jar. Wash bibs after each use. Thank you so much for your time and your attention.
Thank you, Bruni. We're moving on to food allergies with Melissa.
Good evening. We're going to talk about food allergies in our infants and young children. Food allergy facts in the U.S. Food allergy is a growing public health concern. Nearly 11 million or 8% of children have food allergies, with young children affected the most. Boys appear to develop food allergies more than girls. Although childhood food allergies to milk, egg, wheat, and soy generally resolve in childhood, they are resolving more slowly than previous decades, with many children allergic beyond 5. Allergy. A food allergy occurs when the immune system responds to a harmless food as if it were a threat. The first time a person with a food allergy is exposed to the food, no symptoms occur, but the body has now been primed. When the food is eaten again, an allergic reaction occurs. Symptoms of food allergies. An allergic reaction can take place within minutes or several hours after exposure to the food. Common symptoms include itching in the mouth or swelling, GI symptoms such as vomiting, diarrhea, abdominal cramps, hives, eczema, tightening of the throat and trouble breathing, drop in blood pressure, flushed skin, or a rash. How fast will symptoms occur? A reaction can occur within a few minutes or up to 1 to 2 hours after eating the food. It is not just a lunchtime event. Sometimes it appears the symptoms are gone, only to return 2 to 4 hours later. There are 9 major food allergies: milk, eggs, fish, shellfish, tree nuts, peanuts, wheat, soybeans, and now sesame has been added to that. Most common food allergies in children. In infants and children, the most common foods that cause allergic reactions are egg, milk, peanuts, tree nuts, soy, and wheat. Food allergies generally develop early in life but can develop at any age. 1 in every 20 children under the age of 3 has a food allergy. Food allergies can be life-threatening. Managing an egg allergy. The best way to manage an egg allergy is to completely avoid eating eggs. It is not possible to adequately separate the yolk from the white for a child with an allergy to eggs. Managing peanut allergies. The only way to manage a peanut allergy is to avoid peanut and peanut-derived products. That is why we encourage providers to eliminate peanut butter for your menu if you do have a child in your care with this allergy. Are covered under the specific labeling requirements. That is why understanding and reading labels is very important. Anyone with a peanut allergy should avoid products that may have been contaminated by peanuts in a manufacturing process. Epinephrine should be administered in the case of a severe reaction to peanuts. Managing your wheat allergies. Managing wheat allergies involves strict avoidance of wheat ingredients in both food and non-food products. Non-food products containing wheat include Play-Doh, some cosmetics, and bath salts. Options for wheat-free items include foods made from other grains such as corn, rice, quinoa, oats, barley, and rye. The recent growth in gluten-free products is making it easier to manage a wheat allergy. There's over 200 products you can find in the stores now. Managing soy allergy. As with other allergies, strict avoidance of soy and soy products. Soy milk, soy sauce is the best way to prevent a reaction. Reading labels carefully is important because soy may be added to items that you would not expect it to contain, such as dressings, sauces, and even some of your foods like crackers, breakfast cereals, processed cheese, hot dogs, and deli meats. It is not always easy to recognize the presence of soy on a label as they use other words instead of soy. Managing milk allergies. The only way to manage a milk allergy is to avoid milk, other dairy products, and products containing milk proteins. These are added as an extender or filler in certain foods. Labels should be read carefully since milk proteins are often used in products you would not expect to contain milk, such as canned soup, instant mashed potatoes, deli meats, and canned tuna. Use margarine or coconut oil instead of butter, and coconut cream instead of dairy cream. There are also some dips and salad dressings that may contain hidden milk protein. Food allergy versus intolerance. A food intolerance refers to an abnormal response to a food or food additive, but it is different from an allergy in that it does not involve the immune system and does not result in an immediate life-threatening reaction. The inability to digest the lactose in milk is an example of food intolerance, which causes gas, bloating, and diarrhea, but it's not life-threatening. Here are some credible non-dairy beverages. The first group is what you would find on your store shelves, and the second group is refrigerated. Medical statement. A medical doctor must provide a statement specifying exactly what the child can have in place of credible fluid milk. There are now 9 different options to choose from when a milk substitution is needed. If the doctor writes rice milk or almond milk, you may purchase these and claim that child. If the parent buys the rice or almond milk with no doctor's note, the milk cannot be claimed. New medical statement. You'll notice these in your packets. When you're using these, they must be signed and dated by a doctor. The doctor must be specific on what can be served instead of the cow's milk. This form should be used for any food allergies. We also have a new form for the preference request. The form is used when it is a parent's preference that a child not be served cow's milk or any other type of food for personal or religious reasons. Is the child allergic to all dairy products, or is it just milk? Here is another screen of credible milk and milk substitutions in Florida child care food programs. That's all I have for you.
Thank you, Melissa. Thank you, everybody. I think y'all did a wonderful job. I am going to flip back over so I can stop sharing. And I am going to end the recording here.
If anybody would like a copy